It's an absolute privilege to be here with all of you this morning, to see such eminent practitioners in the field, people that I can not only learn and share with, but also admire. I'd like to thank the Gene and the organization team for inviting me to be here to share some thoughts. How I like to describe myself is just as a change maker, someone who's trying hard, striving to bring positive change to what we do. I think I'll take a couple of cues from George. I like his presentation. But the first thing I wanted to say is that I acknowledge his comment that, Gene is definitely doing something to stay young. I think he's also doing a lot to stay young, if I look at him, so probably they're not too far apart. I can't say the same for myself. Let me start with this statement. Cometh the hour, cometh a man or woman. Those who have my number, if you have gone to WhatsApp, you'll see that this is my tagline on WhatsApp. And it relates to two things, really. First of all, it's a reminder to me, myself, that when the hard times hit, that's when I really should stand up and be counted. But it's also a general comment to say that true test of competence and character only comes during the difficult times. And I thought it was an appropriate thing to bring here because of the whole VUCA concept that we're trying to explore. Now, this VUCA thing, we speak about it a lot. What's it really about? What's driving it? And why is it relevant for us as professionals, as practitioners? Well, there's a number of drivers, and these are very powerful global forces which are coinciding, and in their coincidence, they're creating these waves, these very powerful dynamic waves. I sometimes call them tsunamis, which are really changing how things are done, how we have to behave, how we have to respond, how we have to engage, how we have to transact, and even how we have to work. There's technology advancement, which is an obvious one. George seems to be a champion in that field, as he shared with us a few moments ago. And it almost seems as though all these organizations are trying to undo each other. They are trying to outdo each other in terms of, where technology should be. There's this race almost. And that's driving a lot of things. It's driving, dynamism. It's driving, affordability. It's driving so much. Then there is consumer demands. And consumers are changing as people change, as environments change. Consumers are changing. They have access to vast amounts of information. They're becoming more tech savvy, as a result of which they're demanding, they're putting pressure on organizations to give them what they want. Consumer power, if anybody remembers Porter's 5 forces, has really shot up over the years. We have globalization, we have competition, blurring industry lines. Not so long ago, telco was telco, banking was banking. Today, George and his company are playing all over the place. They're doing a bit of banking, they're doing a bit of telco, they're doing all sorts. And it's because industry lines generally are starting to blur. Organizations are recognizing that they can take what competence they've built in one area and apply it in other areas successfully. And that's really heightening competition. Then we have, government policy, regulatory dictates, etc., also coming into the fray. And then finally, I think maybe in the last 3-4 years, we've seen more of this, what I call geopolitical strife. So if it's not wars and all kinds of geopolitical issues and, aggression amongst various nations, it's things like pandemics. So for me, this thing VUCA has stopped being VUCA. It's something more than VUCA. I sometimes call it VUCA squared, or even VUCA on steroids. Right? And it's giving rise to all kinds of actual outcomes. For instance, we're seeing ever-changing demands and expectations from individuals, organizations, partners, etc. We're seeing hyper-competition. Disruption has become the order of the day now. We're seeing, amongst human beings, we're seeing fear, anger, flux. We're seeing socioeconomic complexities, far beyond what we've seen before. We're seeing increase in organized crime, particularly in cyberspace, which is heightening the need for us to have, CISO-like jobs, and the fact that we secure our technology environment. We're also seeing a lot of pressure on CapEx and OpEx as a result of all of these things that are happening. So VUCA is really now on steroids. And given that VUCA is on steroids, how do we accommodate all of this as practitioners in the area? I wanted to throw this in, which is a quotation by the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, which says that the pace of change has never been this fast and yet will never be this slow again. Now, what that tells me is that in as much as we have been VUCA, we are now, per me, in VUCA on steroids. We're going to go to something else, which is even more than VUCA on steroids. This is a frightening prospect if you think about it. It's like, if things are going to keep changing, all these trends, all these forces that I've highlighted, if these are going to keep, becoming more and more intense, and we're going to see a world that is driven by these forces more and more, what does that mean for everybody? How will the world become? And perhaps within the context of what we're doing here, what does that mean for us as practitioners? Well, the first thing is we can't keep doing the same thing, right? We cannot and expect the same results. I think that's how Einstein defined insanity, right? So we can't keep doing the same things. And I like this quote by Peter Drucker, who is widely regarded as the father of modern management theory, and somebody that I follow keenly, even though he's no longer with us. I follow a lot of his teachings and his directions. And he said that the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not necessarily the turbulence itself. It is to act with yesterday's logic. Okay? So the greatest danger to us in these VUCA moments, at these times when things are changing so fast, when we have to deal with new concepts and new elements all the time, is to continue to act the way we used to, is to continue to do BAU. So the question then is, during these times, during these difficult and uncertain times that we've christened VUCA, what do we do? How do we tackle? What should our approach be? And in my experience, and also from literature, there are typically 4 things that most leaders driving various organizations try to do. The first is to focus on core competencies and to protect key markets. So what that basically means is, what you do and what you do well, where you make your substantial buck, you need to protect that. You need to preserve that. Because if you let that go, then everything else is gone. The second is to promote efficiency and preserve capital. So you'll see most organizations in times like this, they'll be wondering, okay, let's not waste money. Let's not spend money on frivolous things or superficial things, things that will not really bring the sort of value or the sort of returns that we're looking for. The third is to prioritize value-add and innovative initiatives. So this is also an opportunity or a time where you want to look at how you innovate to maximize your opportunities. And then the final one, and this relates a lot to what the very powerful words that George has given us, is to manage change. Okay? If organizations, leaders, etc., are able to find a great balance between these 4 powerful things that you need to do, or these 4 powerful responses, then they're on to a winner, or at least they have increased their chances of not only surviving during a downturn, during difficult times, but perhaps even thriving. So we are project managers, and we are speaking about project management in VUCA times. What sort of profile would be required to make the project manager effective, but also thrive within a VUCA context? Well, for me, it comes down to a number of things. First of all, it's about mindset. And George alluded to it a lot. It's about ensuring that you have the mindset, the readiness, the strength, the resilience to be able to not only approach and embrace the times, but also to sail right through. You need to be ready to ride the wave. The second is attitude and posture. You see, it's no longer just about the technical skills that we've had as project management. It's also about your positioning, your posture, your relationships. Then we come to skills. Of course, you still need the skills because there's still a job to be done. And those skills have a key role to play as well. And then the final one is experience. And as the old adage goes, there is no substitute for experience. This is where you will ensure that things that you've seen before, you can repurpose them and apply them in powerful ways to deal with challenges that you're going to be confronted with. So for me, it's about a balance between those technical skills and competencies that we've always developed, we've always had as project managers, and the power skills that are required within today's very dynamic, very fluid, very uncertain context. Good and experienced project managers are actually, in my view, a great fit for these times. Now, if you look at this graphic that I found, which I thought I would share, it says successful project managers. These are the things that they do. And you will notice that technical skills are a given. They're not highlighted here. They're a given. They're expected. That's why you're a project manager. But the real things that will pull you over the line and everything else that you try to do is things like diplomacy, team building, commitment, change management, and process management. Now, the one I wanted to really highlight here is change management. Because I believe, as the old adage goes, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And I believe that being able to get going in times where things are changing so fast, where there's so much uncertainty, where risk is high, is to be able to manage change. I think all organizations, leaderships, whether it's the CEO, the CFO, the CMO, the project leader, the project manager, require change management capabilities in these times to be able to thrive effectively. Now, there is a synergy that I have found between executive management and project management. And I wanted to pull this graphic together to try and illustrate the point. See, at the very top of organizations, where we usually call the C-suite, whether it's the CEO, the CFO, the CMO, the CIO, typically when you distill down to the very bottom, the most fundamental bare bones of it, what they're trying to do is to balance risk, cost, and the benefits that are expected to accrue, because they're trying to create stakeholder value. Okay? So I illustrated here by saying, on the one hand, you have the risks and the costs, the money, the investment, etc. And then on the other hand, you're trying to get some benefit, some value, some impact that you're trying to make on communities, on societies, etc. There must be a balance, and there must be an advantage toward the benefit side. If your risks and costs outweigh the benefits, then you either have a failed or failing organization. That is what C-suite, essentially, bottom line, are trying to achieve. Now, interestingly, if you go to the other side, this is a graphic I picked up from the net as well. You will see, and Judd made this powerful statement that the traditional project management triangle is almost defunct, and he's absolutely right. We need to look at it within a broader context. But for what it's worth, you will see that project managers are also doing a balancing act. They're balancing resources, they're balancing risk, they're balancing scope, time, schedule, in order to achieve some quality outcome. And it's this same quality outcomes which eventually will go towards the value creation that executive management is interested in. So you can already see that a project manager is one of the key arms of strategy realization. And that's not going to change in a VUCA world. In fact, that's going to intensify in a VUCA world. So what does that look like? And I don't propose to walk through all of this in detail. It's something I pulled together which I thought I'd share. And hopefully, as these slides are available, maybe at your convenience, you can get some time to interrogate it and perhaps correct me where you feel I need to be corrected. But what I've done here is I've taken these 4 key responses. Number 1, focus on core competencies and protect key markets. Number 2, promote efficiency and preserve capital. Number 3, prioritize value add and innovative initiatives. And number 4, manage change. And I have shown what is expected by executive management for each of those and what is expected by project managers for each of those, as well as some examples of some of the typical tools and techniques that project managers can expect to use to apply in these instances. So for instance, for the first one, yes, executive management is expected to protect the core base. They are expected to protect critical resources, because at the time where you need to safeguard your entire business, your entire organization, the last thing you want is to lose the most critical resources that contribute to your value creation. They're expected to engage key clients regularly. This is when you want to be, you always want to be close to your clients, but this is where you want to be extra close, because you know that their business is essentially what keeps you afloat. Project managers are also then expected to apply and avail stakeholder mapping. This is where project managers can help using stakeholder mapping, undertake stakeholder engagement, and report on value delivery. Having visibility at this point is priceless, because this is how decisions will be made based on that visibility that as practitioners we can provide. Project managers also have to protect their key resources, because you're delivering. And if you lose your key resources, then your ability to deliver, this is a huge risk, and your ability to deliver will be impaired. So you have to ensure that you protect resources as well. If you go to number 2, for instance, promote efficiency and preserve capital. Executive management, first of all, they have to come up with an unambiguous definition of value. What does value mean, particularly within the context of VUCA? Secondly, they have to eliminate waste and tighten spend. Thirdly, they have to prioritize key initiatives. So if you take my organization, for instance, we had a huge number of projects. Not so long ago, a year ago, we had a huge number of projects. But as these times bit, we realized that we needed to scale down. We needed to prioritize the most critical of those. And we used several methods and several senior leaders involved in the process to ensure that we rationalized to the most critical elements. Because at this time, first of all, we needed to provide higher assurance of delivery. But secondly, we also needed to make sure that we were channeling our energies, our resources into the most important things that we needed to do. And then the final one here for executive management is to support the delivery chain. So now, more than ever, executive management needs to provide that direct support of everything in an organization that drives delivery. Now, that's more than just the project side. That's also the environmental, it's also the production, it's also all those elements that together give the outcomes that you provide to your customers. What do project managers have to do? Well, project managers, must advise on the must-have products. So they must use business cases, ROI data that they have to say, these are the things actually that we need to focus on. Secondly, they must support the prioritization effort. And again, business case data will help to do that, because it will outline those things that are most important based on cost saving, based on customer experience, based on revenue. It will help to identify that. Then, and this one I underlined because this is bread and butter, they must manage their projects efficiently. Yeah, there is no greater call at this point than to manage our projects as best as we can, given the fact that there's so much dynamism and so much change and so much risk. But we must also be ready to recognize that those same changes may call on us to divert and make changes, course corrections, as we sometimes call them, really, really quickly. Okay? And the final one here for project managers is to prioritize value-based or value-focused tasks. Okay? The third box, prioritize value-add and innovative initiatives. I just wanted to pick a couple of things from there because I don't want to go through all of them. But here, executive management must focus on profitable products. And for project managers, we need to present value proposition data. And we also need to isolate and manage innovative or transformational projects. Okay? This is the point at which project managers need to then say, okay, what are the things that can give us the biggest change? Yeah? What gives us the biggest opportunity to make a difference at a time when making a difference is most critical? Now, on the right side box, what I've done is just provide, as I said, examples of some of the tools and techniques that would be useful, from power, interest, grade, stakeholder maps, performance data for personnel, all the way through to the prioritizations based on stability, revenue, cost, and customer experience, cost-benefit analysis, and value. So these are tools and techniques that we're all very familiar with. But these are tools and techniques that at this time can help us get clarity, can help us get visibility, can help us separate the woods from the trees and be able to make very sound business and organizational decisions as a result. The final row deals with management of change. It's probably the single most critical requirement now. Yeah. George spoke about culture. He spoke about the fact that the human dimension becomes most critical in these times. And he is absolutely right. Because the biggest thing, the biggest conundrum that we have to manage is people and the people factor. And the emotional states, the mental states, the conditions that people go through become a key requirement or a key factor, and being able to manage those effectively become a principal aid in being able to deliver the right outcomes. So management of change becomes really, really critical. So what am I saying? I've thrown in a few pieces here and there, a few models here and there, spoken generally about VUCA and the times we're in. I've spoken about the fact that you need certain types of skills, mindsets, experiences, capabilities to be able to ride this wave. But all of it really comes to a very simple point which I wanted to leave with you, which is that project management as a discipline gives us real value in these times. This is the time, in my opinion, for project management and project managers who are good enough to recognize that it is not just the technical skills that matter, but the broader leadership and power skills as well. By definition, project management as a discipline is a useful tool during risky and uncertain times. And for me, because of the training, orientation, and experience of project managers, we are well suited to being able to deliver effectively within these times. We just have to, first of all, recognize it and bring our A game. So my friends, just to conclude, I just wanted to say that this is your time. This is our time. It's an opportunity for us to make a difference, and we have to put our best foot forward. And I urge all of you to make the most of today in particular, but any other such opportunities to hone your skills and avail yourself to make a difference. Thank you very much.